on CELTA courses. Marisa works on Delta courses as well. She's the director at CELT Athens. I work at CELT Athens as a CELTA tutor, and we, like most other tutors and teachers here, last year we went online, fully online. Of course, at our center, we have been delivering online courses, for example, for the Delta, since possibly the beginning of time. And that was great because we were well prepared for that change. But we did observe very many new teachers, but also experienced teachers struggling a little bit with the online component of our courses, not necessarily the pedagogy, because that was part of any training course anyway, but using different tools, incorporating them in their lessons, and so on and so forth. So today our talk really sort of focuses on the common problems that our trainees have had. And ideally, we would like to get a feel of what your problems have been with online teaching, either from the point of view of the teacher who is using a platform or different tools to teach online, or from the point of view of the trainer who has observed many lessons online. So if you could use the chat box for this one and just drop an idea or two of what, if you were to choose one thing that for you it has been the biggest problem that you've experienced, or that your trainees have experienced, that would be great to get the conversation started. Yeah, technical students have. That's great, Paul, there. That's indeed something that we also experience. Sometimes the teachers are up to speed, but the learners, we forget to get the learners up to speed. Jigsaw tasks, of course. Sharing materials in Zoom. I think we will talk about this later. Technical problems related to infrastructure. I think with regard to the platform, I suppose problems there. Unresponsive students, yes, the story of our lives. Camera switched off. The biggest problem is that I am afraid I can't deliver the ideal control of the class as in offline classes. Okay. Students engaged. So very similar to what we said earlier about cameras being turned off. Okay. Monitoring. A sense of community. Absolutely, I agree with that. There are expert users mobile devices but really struggle with Zoom. Yes, we do. In projects like this one, Neil, I think we do use a lot sort of WhatsApp and those messenger apps, if you like. It's a little bit of it's a bit of a different approach there, isn't it? Screen time can be, oh, absolutely, Eleni. Screen time is killing me.
Apologies, I have a very nervous mouse or something, and it keeps dashing, keeping back and forth the slides.
Family members and pets, yes, that can be an issue. Very distracting. I hadn't thought about it until one of my students started coming with their cat, petting their cat during the lesson, and I felt very distracted because I love cats. But also the other students as well. Yes.
I have one Delta trainee as well who brings her cat. And I see the cat and I think the cat is responding to my questions. I think this is actually quite sweet, but I don't mind. Equipment for everyone. So not all your students have laptops or pads or things like that. Okay. So we've got quite a lot of problems in the chat. Very nice problem. Very good point. Students feeling overwhelmed with the different platforms and apps being incompatible with some of their devices. This can be a problem. So yeah, And it's also students maybe from different nationalities, for example, and teachers. We're training some teachers from China right now, where in order to get into anything Google, they need to go into VPN. They have to go through some kind of, because it's not allowed in China. And in other countries, other platforms are not allowed. So, okay, shall we move on, Angelos?
Absolutely.
I don't know what I was going to say here, but just the fact that I am not pre-digital. I can receive emails. I can do all the basic things that teachers need to do. I can copy, paste, embed, upload, download, register, unregister, use learning management systems and platforms. And although I am not a digital pro, like some people who can actually write code and create websites and create learning management systems. I think I'm something between digital adopter and possibly digitally evolved or involved. Involved is not a bad idea either. So what are you? How do you see yourself? Can you write down in the text chat who you are in this scheme? I'm not going to go into Mark Prensky's kind of great digital divide, which separated us. I'm sorry, I've stopped my video, which separated us into digital natives. These were people, he said, that know how to use stuff, and digital immigrants. I know people who could be called digital refugees even, and one of my trainees called himself a digital deportee even, because he tended to lose all his work. Adopter, you are an adopter. Benjamin, I thought you were more evolved because you're creating websites and stuff. So I think you're not just an adopter. So anyone else wants to commit and say, you don't code? I don't code either. I cheat. I copy code from other sites. Yes, absolutely, Neil. It's very, very questionable, because even what we thought digital natives are the people who were born in the digital era. These are your students. They can maybe use their iPhone or their smartphone, but they cannot, as some of you said, use all the apps and platforms, and they are sometimes overwhelmed. You code as well. That's very good. So what is it then that we can do, that we should be able to do? From what we've observed from our trainees and courses and other colleagues who we communicate with online, people like Marie, like Joe Dale, like Ben, or all the people that we are in touch with in social media, I think what the online teachers should be able to do, we just put in a short summary of what they should be able to do. And we think that it's important to analyze learner needs, because online teaching is not like offline teaching. And the page of the course book is usually not designed for using online, and it's not easy to look at, or maybe even suitable for online work. So they should be able to design their own material, select material that they should be able to adapt. They should be able to plan courses, even short ones or longer ones, and able to support learning with other tools. I think the skills that are involved in online teaching, a lot of these skills can transfer easily to offline teaching as well, because offline teaching is not the offline teaching of 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where it was just you chalk and talk, but we have interactive whiteboards now, we have internet in every classroom, we have the concept of flipped learning, and I think supporting learning with educational tools, with online tools, is quite an important skill to acquire and develop. Also, we believe that an online teacher should be able to be flexible and to be able to pick and choose and find their way through the different methods and approaches and find what is suited for the particular group of learners. A group of learners from Italy is not the same as a group of learners from Brazil or a group of learners from Greece or China. So I'm not saying go back to grammar translation because teachers want grammar translation, but I'm saying that we are past the divide that said I have to use one approach and one size fits all. Some people have mentioned moderation, particularly moderating people and monitoring people when they're in breakout rooms and stuff. But I think general or online moderation and moderating learners doesn't just mean listening to them while they're talking in the breakout room. It means moderating their learning in a broader sense, following their progress, perhaps on a learning management system like Edmodo. Some of you mentioned Edmodo. What other platforms do some of you use? Can you mention them in the text chat while I talk myself to death here? So you should be able to use different online platforms as well. For example, Edmodo is one choice. Microsoft Teams is another one. Moodle, Canva, Google Classroom, wow. Blackboard, Coursera, I don't know that one. Maybe I should. So I'm going to learn some stuff from you. Can you put some other Google Classroom? Anyone else using Google Classroom? It's a free tool. Marie, yes? Okay, I don't know that one. Adobe Connect, Teams. So the most popular online platforms are appearing on the screen. So over to you, Angelos.
So the way we will organize this talk, the first part of the talk is to focus on how we manage these four sort of aspects of any lesson or any course. So starting with technology, then looking at rooms, and then moving on to how we manage the materials and how we manage learning as a whole. So we will start with managing technology, I think. And if we could go to the next slide, Marisa, that'd be great. And maybe the next one. Thank you very much. So some of you mentioned earlier as problems that very often students, but also teachers sometimes get overwhelmed with, the different platforms that we use. And depending on our teaching context, in some cases, we can just use one platform. Say when we do language lessons of our own, those of you teaching on one-to-one, maybe you only use, say, for example, Zoom or any other video conferencing tool. If you are part of a school, you might also have to use an LMS. Many of you have talked about Edmodo, Google Classroom, and Blackboard. And in other cases, you have to use many of those because you need to upload documents in one place, you need to track asynchronous performance in another place, and then you have your synchronous platform for your live classes. And again, these sometimes we top up with different apps and different digital tools. So it does become quite a bit, both for the teacher to handle and for the learners. And I think what is important to do when you start as an online teacher, especially this is for those of you who are not as experienced in online teaching, is to make a decision as to what is that you expect learners to be doing, how you expect learners to be doing it, and then going into finding those tools or platforms that you need. I think that in this particular case, less is more. The fewer platforms we use, the better it gets for our learners, unless, of course, we have been with them for quite some time, in which case it's easier for them to follow, for us to introduce a new tool and for them to follow and use it. So I think the the answer to how much technology we should use is as much as you and your learners can handle, really. So it's important to get them in the decision-making process, to get them involved in that, and ask your learners, first of all, if they're okay with the tools and platforms you use, if they would be happy for you to add one, or if they need fewer platforms for their lessons. And here we also asked some of our trainees the question about how much technology, or what are your tips with regards to tech. And of course, these refer to teachers. So this is advice that our trainee teachers gave to other teachers. And they say, have the best internet connection you can afford, because very often we've seen teachers not having a very strong connection, which of course creates a lot of problems if they have to use an online synchronous teaching environment through a video conferencing tool. Other trainees came up with said, be familiar with the platform you use. Again, this is something very important. I think it does make a difference when learners have a teacher who knows how to use the technology that they're using. They have a sense, they develop that sense of confidence to the teacher. And I find that it is very important, because it does give learners a better learning experience as a whole, but it also helps the teacher feel less stressed about the whole, the lesson. And another one of our trainees said, keep parents out of the room. This is very, in particular, I think this is for those of us who teach young learners.
This is a long-suffering teacher who has a lot of parents leaning over the student's shoulder and just interfering with whatever is happening in the classroom. I think that was a humorous comment. And we've had other comments like, buy a dongle with a 3G or 4G something as an extra booster of your connectivity, because there are people who work in areas that just don't have a very good internet connection, and you need an extra boost. So your basic toolkit is somewhere to leave your stuff, I think. Where do you save your stuff? Where do you what is your resources repository? Where do you keep your stuff? Do you have a place where you keep all your lessons, all your, Google Disk, all right? Google Drive, does anybody use Google Drive? OneDrive, possibly. Yes. Dropbox is also a very popular option. But there are other options where you can keep your resources. Could be either a place like Dropbox, we say where I post a blog, where I post all the notes. There you are. A blog, it could be public or private, could be a repository of material. And it is more interactive, because the learners can post comments or possibly even their own. Google Drive, Google Docs, Dropbox is not practical for some people. Edmodo is another place, and that's great. It leads to my next comment, that your online space could also be your repository. Your Google Drive could work with Google Classroom, so these two can collaborate. Or sometimes we often use PBWorks to save our resources. PBWorks is a free wiki, and if it's for free users, you can save as much as 15 gigabytes of, I think. Let me just admit some people who are coming in late. You need to have a fairly good display board, and this is one of the problems that I will be talking about very soon, because display boards online, yeah, Padlet is great. You can save material on Padlet, just following the text chat, which is coming down very fast. And I personally have a lot of problems with a Zoom whiteboard, interactive whiteboard. I don't know if you have problems with that. And so I'm going to talk about alternatives. You need very good text creation and editing skills, because online views are not the same as handout views or your whiteboard views in class. And also, finally, the last piece of the pie here, if you like, is develop a community and learn from each other in social media. Many of us, you will notice, those of you who are new to our webinars and perhaps are meeting us for the first time, are familiar faces. I recognize many names in the text chat because they belong to my personal learning network. They belong to my online support community of teachers, people that I share ideas with and learn from. So I think it's quite important as well to develop a circle of people that you trust. Neil says he uses his PowerPoints. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you, Neil. I've given up using it. So Angelos, over to you.
I think here we've covered all of those things that we see on the slide with what we've shared in the chat, really.
Should I move ahead?
Yes, we can do that. So there is one thing that perhaps links nicely to what you said before about sort of storing materials and at the same time creating that that sense of community. So we have started experimenting with using messenger apps, like WeChat, WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook, with our trainees, but also with our learners. And one of the two of the benefits actually that we've experienced is that those applications, in particular Telegram, allow us to save all our materials. Once we upload them, once we share them with our learners, the materials stay there, so they can access them at any point if they need to. Also, they create that sense of community in that both the teacher and the learners can be involved in out of class discussion, but also the learners themselves can find one another. They can send a private message to one another if they want to, or if they want to say something that doesn't perhaps involve the teacher. And it gives them that sense of a learning community, which I think is very important. It's the one thing that I feel is missing from online instruction. At the same time, it gives the teacher and the learners a little bit of a more instantaneous communication when they need to have that. For example, you start your lesson and you realize that only 3 out of your 10 students are there. You can very easily just drop a message and say, class has started, where is everyone? And maybe they might tell you, oh, I'm having a technical issue. So not to wait perhaps, or you might give the rest an activity and you can help this individual student on one-to-one basis to solve their problem. So I think that's an important group of tools or group of online apps that we tend to forget because we focus so much on the Zoom platform or the Edmodo platform, the LMS or the VLC. So it's important to think about these as well.
We've asked some of our learners what they think about all this and what kind of things they prefer to do. And this is a question I've asked them in the past as well. Well, the young learners, as you understand, are just dying to get back to the real world, to physical classrooms, offline classrooms. because they really get very screen tired. Adults seem to be happier, and they are more responsive to the skills of teachers, their technical skills. Young learners are not so bothered with that. The technical skills don't matter to them that much of a teacher, as long as it's a teacher who is bubbly, happy and playful and affectionate. Young learners are quite happy, online or offline, but adults really do prefer activities, teachers who are skilled users of their platforms. And some of the things that our colleagues have said when we asked them, use the room, use the learner's physical space for activities. Don't just, you know, communicate with them as a talking head and turn them into talking heads. Get them to use kinesthetic activities, game activities, and particularly, you know, bring stuff from different rooms of the house or whatever, stand up, sing, or even dance, you know. I know it sounds very, very strange to be dancing on your own in front of the screen, but, you know, this is our new normal. This is stuff we have to do. I'm going to have Easter lunch with my family on Zoom today, later today. So what else is new? That's what the kind of life we are getting used to. People are sharing lots of great ideas on in the text chat. So how about managing the learning, Angelos?
Let's move on to the next slide, please.
Okay, well, you can talk about that.
Yes, so here we've seen one of the comments that we received from fellow teachers is a bit of a difference between teaching sort of very young learners or primary actually and secondary, and the issue of course has to do with perhaps keeping the class organized in a manner that learners can follow a lesson instead of just following each other's issues or problems that they might be experiencing. And at the same time, as much as many of, you know, some of you in the chat box and many of our students echo what we see here in the pictures, there have also been other teachers who actually report that, especially with secondary, they find that students are a little bit more responsive. There is not so much you know, noise in the background, because students cannot just chat to the person sitting next to them that would happen in a face-to-face class. So they do see a benefit with online teaching, and they find that at times students tend to be better focused.
Angelos, I've just negotiated with, sorry, I did something wrong. Can you see my screen again?
Yes, your screen is here.
Okay, because one of the problems that adults have and teenagers, I think young learners are a bit more fearless. But teenagers are at the age where inhibitions and embarrassment and losing face can become quite important. So adults have some issues as well. They're silent, they don't participate because they feel embarrassed, they're afraid of making mistakes. There is some school mommy teacher in their past that used to punish them when they make mistakes or laugh at them. So making a mistake is really, you know, kind of brings up all of their anxiety. They're afraid of being ridiculed for making mistakes by other students, losing face, or they may have a poor self-image and low self-esteem, either general low self-esteem or maybe low self-esteem in terms of doing online tasks or answering questions or being a poor listener, because you can be quite a confident person but think, you know, I'm not very good at tech, or I'm not very good at learning languages. So your self-image can be low in very specific areas. But a lot of that confusion, lack of certainty, lack of understanding can be teacher induced sometimes, I think, because online you need a lot more clarity and very precise instructions, even more so than in offline classrooms where you're physically present. You can tell if someone is confused. You can monitor pair and group work. You can look over the student's shoulder, but in online classrooms, it's not very, sometimes it's too late. By the time you've understood that things are not working very well, it can be too late. So Angelos suggests some ideas here.
My main suggestion, and one of the things that is I find to be very different when I compare face-to-face and online instruction, is the amount of nomination that needs to take place in an online environment. Very often I find that when I address a question, you know, to the whole class, people don't respond, and that's not because they don't know the answer. That's because they don't know if they are supposed to be responding. They know that if they speak and somebody else speaks at the same time, perhaps the software might cancel, you know, both audios, or it just becomes noise in our ears. In a physical classroom, even when you ask the floor, you either see people sort of raising their hands, or even their body language shows that they're about to take a turn. And that's something that in online environments, we don't have that. Of course, there are the reaction tools. You can raise a digital hand and this can work, but this also takes time. Especially if you are using a class that's not your regular class, and you know that you have them on a daily basis for a period of time, so you can do a lot of training. If you have a class that's typical of a teacher training situation, you might need to nominate a little bit more, use their names, make them feel part of the class. It always adds, it makes it a lot more sort of personable. And it also helps you keep track of the pace of the lesson as well. So I find that nominating a little bit more than usual works very well in online environments. The other main issue has to do with instructions. I see what I've experienced is a big difference with our trainees when we teach them how to give instructions in face-to-face environment, in face-to-face settings. They tend to just get it a bit faster. You know, they learn how to show the handout, how to indicate particular parts of the handout, how to stage instructions. Online teaching adds more layers of instructions that our teachers need to give. So it's not only about what the task is about or how to perform the task, but it's also what tools you need to perform the task, how you're going to go about using these tools. If we send, for example, people in a breakout room, it's not just, oh, you know, in your pairs, talk about this for 5 minutes, but it's also how are you going to talk about it? Who is going to start? Who is going to be next? Who is sharing their screen? So I think staging instructions is very, very important. You know, very often we see teachers sending a link to a tool and giving instructions later about how to use this tool instead of doing a demo first, and also checking your instructions, as Neil said, rigorously. And I think that's one of the benefits of our teachers who are going through online teacher training. When they are in the classroom, if you like, my gut feeling says that they will be much better with instructions and all the classroom management aspects, because they are really honed in online environments?
The idea here, obviously, is that everything needs a little bit more careful scaffolding in online instruction. I think the teacher, as a scaffold builder, is quite an important concept generally in education, because when we scaffold activities, we provide the infrastructure for the learners to be able to perform well. I think many of the colleagues in the audience who are also involved in teacher education will be familiar with the process of scaffolding, and also as having a very strong process focus in our lessons, in the sense that we're not just giving instructions to the learners what to do. I want you to answer some comprehension questions, but we want to scaffold the activity in such a way that the learners are going to be able to perform successfully. So that means that the teacher, as a scaffold builder and as a process-oriented teacher, will be constantly involved in some kind of form of learner training. So scaffold building is support that you will be eventually able to withdraw. It's not something that you expect to be doing in every single activity. Once you've trained up your learners, for example, how to behave when they're doing jigsaw reading, for example, or jigsaw listening, somebody mentioned earlier in the text chat. After you do it 2 or 3 times, they know what to do. And sometimes we observe teachers doing their ICQs, their instruction setting questions, and the students go, yeah, we know. But obviously the teacher has to do it to display the fact that they can do this. So scaffolding is quite important. Teach your learners to be autonomous. That means that they will eventually learn what the activity is all about. Some of the strategies we think are quite important for scaffolding is providing clear models. For example, if you want the learners to use particular kinds of conversational sequences or write particular text, it might be a good idea to provide them with a model. Giving them diagrams is also quite important. Scaffold diagrams have an internal logical structure that allows learners to consider approaching a task, or they can see the conceptual framework of the task. Or if it's a narrative, it's going to be a flow chart. If it's some parallel test, it's going to be a table, and so on. Use a lot of visuals and real objects if you can, or verbal prompts. And sometimes, if L1 is available to you and you're teaching a monolingual group, make sure you check, or you get the learners to give you back their understanding of your instructions in their L1, because if you're teaching very low level learners or very young learners, the L1 is not just translanguaging, thank you, Neil, but the young pupils feel comforted by their mother tongue sometimes if it's used by the teacher. They just really respond very, very emotionally, and it's a question of affective factors here. And you need to also make sure that you activate knowledge that they have, and if they don't have it, to provide a framework which allows them either for you to brief them or for them to brief each other. Now, tips from our own trainees for that, Angelos?
Let's see some. Let's see. Okay, so we have Billy here, who talks about what we saw earlier about using the room, using realia, get the learners to, if they are able to do so, get your learners perhaps to show you their room or parts of their room. It's great to sort of give us that window to their space, to who they are.
I think the old concept of, sorry to interrupt you, Angelos, the old concept of show and tell
Exactly,
It's the old
absolutely.
idea of show and tell. Bring something strange, bring a mysterious object, bring your favorite toy, bring your favorite object or whatever. Go on, please.
And yes, so being lively and engaging, I think we need, our energy needs to be at 200% every time we have an online lesson, just to get everyone engaged with us, to grab their attention, because indeed it's of course easier to lose interest. I think here perhaps as part of learner training, or if you have a classroom a class contract, or if you have some sort of good practice document, you might need to teach your learners how to turn notifications off from the device that they are using to connect to your lessons. Because usually what happens is they are in this environment and then a notification pops up that says, oh, somebody commented on your post on Facebook, and it's very easy for them to just click there and go to Facebook instead. So important to deal with that. I think another challenging aspect is student and teacher talking time. In a classroom, in a face-to-face classroom, that is, when teacher talking time is very high, you just get the feel of it in the room. You just hear it's your own voice there. But online, you don't have that, because you are in front of the screen. Very often teachers don't understand that at the other end, on students, in the students' environment, they do nothing. Like it's very similar to what we do now, where it's a sort of a one-way interaction. Of course, here we do have the chat, but it is important for teachers to become aware of the fact that the more they speak, especially in an online environment, the less engaged the learners are. So we need to make sure that our interactions are all learner-centered, that they're always involved, that we always ask questions and give them tasks to do.
I think, sure, there are moments in the lesson where you will need to talk when you're presenting something, when you're clarifying something. But there is a trap, as I said, in a trip that you can get drawn into talking and turn the lesson into a Q&A kind of interaction, and think it is learner-centered. A lot of people think Q&A is learner-centered. But if you think about how much time people have in order to talk, they don't have very much time if you Q&A throughout the moments in your lesson. And time matters. Angelos?
Definitely. We've all seen in the last year through our PLN, all the advice coming in that when we plan for an online lesson, we should plan for fewer activities or fewer stages, because everything takes longer. But also another thing that matters that's related to time is pace. And I think that's another major aspect of online lessons that we really need to focus on, to have that high energy pace. There's always learners being engaged with an activity, doing something, rather than just listening to us. And I think we will see later on perhaps some screencasting tools that can help us take away those teacher-fronted stages from the actual lesson and giving more time for practice activities.
I think one of the easy, simple ways of doing that, and we've seen a lot of people do that very successfully, because teachers tend to share, particularly if you're communicating with your colleagues in some kind of online community network, is that visual prompts are very good for keeping us quiet and for being a short code to the learners about what we're going to do. There are tools that do this automatically online. For example, there's a wonderful online whiteboard called Classroom Screen that shows the learners a little image of, this is pair work. But you don't need to use that particular frame. Sorry, it's my jumpy mouse. I don't know what to do with it. If it's time for pairs, show them an image. If it's a time for brainstorming ideas, find an image. If it's group work, if it's time for guesswork, we took that from one of the lessons that we were observing recently. And instead of asking all these long formulated questions, guess, and then overlap a little shape. Was your guess right? So establish a short code or visual aids. It's quite important as well to do some learner training. A lot of you have said that people, young learners, teenagers, adults don't come online, ready and beautifully formed for online instruction. There are no intuitive things that you can do online, and so you need to invest time to train your learners. And what I think is quite important is to do learner training, to include learner training, of onboarding. Thank you. Onboarding could be the early lessons of your syllabus, could be lessons that use learner training as language input. For example, the language of instructions, YouTube videos that tell you how to do things. You can use them for listening, and the learners are also learning how to use their platform. And of course, you need to make it relevant to their age, to the level, and the virtual learning environment that you are indeed using. It can be platform specific. Find out what your learners need to know and make a list of those items and create lessons. I think also it's quite important to train them up to participate well. And we tend to give them some initial training lessons where how to behave in a breakout room. These are some slides from lessons that I taught recently, where I was trying to train a group of higher intermediate learners how to behave in breakout rooms, how to participate and get to the activity, how to use up their time, avoiding very long monologues and so on. Be someone, because one of them usually has to share their screen, someone needs to take notes, someone needs to share the notes back into the main room. And also teach them how to be polite. Politeness is not universal. The rules of politeness are not the same in every language. And interruptions online tend to be very irritating to the ear because the sound is in your head, and usually you're wearing a headset. It's not like me now without a headset. If I'm talking to a lot of people, I'm wearing my headset. And learners often think, it's when they go into breakout rooms, they want to dominate the discussion, and some of them are more direct than others, and they say, no, this is wrong, this is not very clever, but teach them how to be polite. This is a lesson in politeness rules in English, which comes from your knowledge of discourse analysis and politeness rules, but you can make it very simple. You can teach the learners how to do. So materials also need to be managed, and Angelos is going to talk to us about that.
So we did talk about saving the material somewhere. Most of you are familiar with Moodle, Edmodo, PBWorks. Marisa mentioned earlier, Schoology is another place that you can use to store materials. I think with whatever we are using, as long as we know how to use it and learners know how to use it, that's what should work for us. The important thing is that everything is saved somewhere. We don't just use email communication back and forth, because it's very easy for students not to find something, or if they think they cannot find it in an email, it's very easy for them to sort of give up, if you like.
Padlet is also a great place. I think you were going to talk about it, but I'm very happy to take over. You see, I can be the talking head in this presentation. I think Padlet is a great tool, and recently it has added some new functionalities. So here is an example of Padlet where you could actually store your materials online. And for example, you can put all the materials that you used on August 28 can go into one column. On Padlet, you can have different kinds of configurations. This one is called a shelf, and then you can put it in columns. It's free up to a number, but it's not a very expensive platform. It's a wonderful platform to use. I think you can have up to 5 free Padlets, which can be used up very quickly. And also, if more recently, Padlet, I don't know if I can show it later in the Q&A or TeachMate section. You can also get the learners to record things or to draw things on a Padlet, which is another great feature for homework or for speaking homework. And I'm going to show you that later. Brian says a tip, never write the same lesson plan twice. And he's used Padlet or Google Drive to keep all his material together. Brian was a very good trainee in terms of his beautiful presentations, because he has some background in graphic design. But what he said is true. There are wonderful free templates that you can find on Google Slides, or if you go anywhere online about, for example, Microsoft Office has free templates that you can download. You can download templates that are topical to your lesson. For example, if you're doing a lesson in sports, you can download a template and use that. And then also, he uses YouTube a lot so that he can expose to a range of voices. Google Classroom is also something that you may be familiar with. And here there are some different groups of classes that we've set up. Yes, true, Lou. Design ideas. So for example, here in Google Classroom, you can see how people can download PDFs, PowerPoints, student handouts, and share them with their students, particularly if you can't share material on Zoom because your learners are not able to download the material, they don't see the material in the chat. You can do that through Google Classroom. Angelos is going to talk to us about handouts.
I use handouts. I started using, when I first started teaching online, I would use PowerPoint or other sort of slide-based presentation software. But then I moved to handouts, and that's because it allows me to use the handout as a whiteboard and as a means of sharing materials or showing tasks, texts and whatnot with the learners. So I do find a value in using handouts instead of PowerPoint, sometimes because PowerPoint is difficult to edit while you're in a presentation mode. For example, if we wanted to edit or add an idea on this slide, we would need to enable the annotate feature of Zoom, which of course makes very often it makes the life of teachers quite difficult, because then you would need to deactivate that to move from one slide to the next. Whereas if we have a handout, it's easier to edit as we present, and it makes it easier for us and for the learners, because then after we add the class notes onto the handout, we can share it with the learners so they can have the key to the tasks, they can have a collection of their ideas during a brainstorm stage, and it makes a great record of the lesson as well. And a very important feature or a very important aspect to consider when designing handouts, I think that's the next slide, Marisa, is to always consider how what is that student's view at any one time. Especially with handouts, it's very easy for us to leave out things. Because when we design it, we tend to think in sort of face-to-face environments. So we might have the text on one page and the questions on another page, but the learners need to be looking at both. They need to see the text and the question so that they know what they're reading for. So when we are designing our handouts, I think it's important to take into account how we are about to display the handout. So what is that the learners need to be looking at, and design or adapt the design of the handout accordingly?
This is one alternative to the online whiteboard of Zoom, which I really don't like very much. And I like Classroom Screen. It's a free online platform. And I've loaded all the features of Classroom Screen online. You can find it on Classroom Screen, oneword.com. And it can give you dice for games. You can use your webcam. You can bring in a YouTube video. You can choose who is going to speak next. You can have choices of, classroom management instructions that say, be quiet now, or working groups or working paths. It gives you timers. There are a lot of places that give you a free online timer, and even I think you can embed one in your PowerPoint. But this is a great website to use as an online whiteboard. I love it to bits. I also love Jamboard to bits, because you can give people individual pages, particularly if they're writing. For example, in this one, each student had their own little page. You can make tables by using the shapes. I think, Angelos, you made that one.
Yes, I did.
So he used shapes, because Jamboard doesn't have tables, but he used shapes to make a little table for teams to pin different stickers. Or you can give them, even you can copy and paste with your snipping tool. You can paste a slide from your PowerPoint, and you can use it as a visual background for learners to put stickers or to write their ideas. And so it's a very, very flexible tool. You can draw, you can give feedback, and you can see how different groups can organize their work. Some people use the drawing tool, some people tend to use little shapes. So I really, really like it. I think one of the only thing that it doesn't do is allow you to record on it. Another trainee just used her PowerPoint slides and particularly this is really nice if you want different groups to work on the same page. You can simply start another page here. It's called Jamboard, and it's a free tool. It's part of Google. So as you can see here, there's a little tool, slide number at the top that gives you arrows. You can have as many pages as you like. So if you're using groups, each group can have their own page, and you can very easily, boom, 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 copy and paste their task on their page. I think we're going on to managing learning. Yeah, okay. And Angelos is going to talk about lesson shapes as well.
So what I said earlier, that it's a good idea to take those teacher-fronted sessions, teacher-fronted stages from your lesson, and perhaps following a little bit of a flipped approach, if you like, use screencasts to present these. So, whatever kind of lesson or type of lesson you're using, there's always some sort of a clarification bit where the teacher needs to take over to clarify features of the language or strategies for skills development and so on. So I think it is important to find a screencasting tool to create a very short, perhaps tutorial that learners can watch before the lesson as many times as they like. So if they haven't understood something, they can replay, and then you can have a shorter time. You can have a shorter time in class where you just review the material, the topic that you covered in your tutorial. And here we can see some of the available screencasting tools. So Loom, Screencastify, Screencast-O-Matic, Zoom. All of them, they have their pros and cons. For teachers who aren't perhaps as familiar with a variety of tools, using Zoom for that is absolutely great. I'm assuming that you are using Zoom for your teaching, or any other teaching platform. The platform that you use for your teaching, you can use it to record a very short screencast, a short tutorial where you clarify something, and then you can send it to your learners. The other important thing that we see very, very often in the early stages of a teacher's development is the type of practice activities they choose to use in online environments. And we see a lot of transfer, if you like, from face-to-face to online environments. So activities that they would do in class, sometimes say like a gap fill activity that I have there on the right-hand side. In online environments, it is much better to, instead of going through these boring tasks, to give them something that involves cooperation, collaboration, where people participate, they talk to one another, or they write collaboratively, but something that would engage more students, rather than having them working individually on a gap fill task that they can do at their own time. They can do as homework. They don't need to be behind a screen for an hour or so to perform activities like this one. So it's important to consider the type of practice tasks, and it's important to use answer keys as well, not only to sort of save time so that you can move on to more interesting parts of your lesson, but also to help your learners become more autonomous, to get them to use the answer key or the task correction time as a learning opportunity.
I think we've reached the end of the tips that we had in this presentation. And these are last minute tips that we received from our own trainees. They love Flipgrid, and I think some of you use Flipgrid as well. Some of them love to use Nearpod as a learning management system. Cambridge English Write and Improve seems to be very popular. It is expensive, yeah. Instatext, I think Maria Karayani introduced me to that one. It helps correct text. Mentimeter is very, very popular, but I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for a few moments and just see if you have any questions. I'm going to, what was the tool? Screenity. Oh, okay, it's a new tool. So I'm going to share my screen. Share the link to our slides if you like them, and maybe a link to the Jamboard presentation. Do you have any questions at the moment that you might like to ask before we ask some of our colleagues to present their own ideas? Cheers, Arzu, no problem. I have to go, and I have Insta lunch online. How can we make the production part authentic online? Is a question. It's such a great summary of where we are at. Thank you, Neil. That's really appreciated. Could you please show the last chart? Chris, you've said that about 3 times. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm going to share the screen, the slides link. Yeah, if you're interested, and you can look at that particular slide to your heart's content. Let me share the link here. And also, if anybody is interested in the presentation for Jamboard that I did recently, I'll share my screen, my link later. there was a question that was asked about how to allow more time for talk. I think one of the things that I forgot to mention in my small research amongst our learners, and particularly our adult learners, was their desire to talk more. One of the things they said is, we don't come online in order to listen to look at someone present boring grammar. They think that's a lot of busy work, and their objection is that we tend to hear teachers rabbiting on, so to speak, about grammar rules. We've had that, and it hasn't helped us any. You know, we've had a lot of classes in the past where we had people doing stuff from the workbook and the grammar book, and we can hardly speak. So can you help us with more talking time? So trying to include more talking time and activities in breakout rooms. They want a lot of breakout time. I don't know if you've noticed that in your own classes, but breakout room time is very, very highly appreciated. Whether you manage to give them the perfect monitoring feedback and you correct all the mistakes, it doesn't matter. What matters to them is to have time available for communicating with each other. Any other questions? My presentation on Jamboard. Well, let me organize. Maybe I have shared the PowerPoint. Here it is. I'm sharing the link again. It's on slide share.
Marisa, we cannot see the link if you're sharing it in the chat.
Oh, sorry. I'm sharing it with everyone in the waiting room. There you are. I don't know why. There is no one in the waiting room. There you are. Everybody can make mistakes. One of the things that, one of the reasons why I talk a lot about Jamboard is because the Zoom whiteboard really drives me crazy. If I start a Zoom whiteboard, I don't know if it happens to you. I operate from a Mac. I lose my mouse. I cannot find it again. It kind of gets lost in there. So I tend not to use it at all. And I either will use a document like Angelos or I will use a Jamboard. Now, I think it's time to ask our colleagues to come up. And I'm going to ask Paul to come up and talk a little bit. He has his 5-7 minute slot to talk about Screencast-O-Matic. And Paul, would you like to activate your video?
Yep, I haven't got permission to do so.
You haven't got permission? Well, you don't look very nice, that's why. So I don't know why.
I don't blame you.
No, I don't think we should give you permission. Where are you in the? I can't.
No problem. It's probably, as you say, my hair's probably too messy anyway.
I think, yeah, I don't think I'm on a good hair day either. So let me just put. I'm gonna make you host. Do I need to make him host, Angelos?
No, I don't. So.
You can allow screen sharing.
I can share my screen. Let me. I'll just go with the voice and the screen share. Nobody needs to.
I can't ask him to. Well.
No problem.
All right. Okay.
Well, it's very much connected to what you guys have been saying as well. The problems, overcoming problems, and these. I mean, there are many problems I think I've encountered teaching online for. I've been teaching online for several years now, but common problems, obviously, engaging teams, getting them to, and as you've just mentioned, practice, as much as possible. I mentioned teams because of engagement, because of the. I think adults are. They decide to learn online. Teens should we say, forced sometimes, unfortunately, especially in extracurricular activities, which is, for example, English in this sense. Sharing materials in breakout rooms. How can I, Angelos mentioned this about the worksheets, the handouts, which is very useful to make sure that all the students have access to the materials when I'm not actually in the room, or they're not in the room with me. And another problem is having a flipping good lesson. So flipping my lessons. And again, something you guys have already mentioned as well. So one little tool I used, it doesn't solve all these problems perfectly. But again, a tool that has already been mentioned, which there are many. This is one, and what I wanted to do is just a little walkthrough and sort of demonstrate how I've used it. That's all. Okay. So it's a free tool, which is useful. I've used it for scene dubbing. This particular example that I'm going to show you is to introduce what we're going to do that particular lesson. So this is the first thing students would see.
Welcome to today's lesson.
I'm not sure if you can hear that.
Oh, where am I? Where am I? Today we will revise the conditionals together. Yes, the conditionals. And it's going to be wonderful. Conditionals? What are they? Oh, yeah, I think so. We'll do the speaking activity in breakout rooms. Breakout rooms? What's breakout rooms? Oh, I don't know. Yes, and by the end of the lesson, you will have discovered the secrets of talking hypothetically. Hypothetically? Ooh.
Yeah, okay, so it's one way of getting a little smirk out of people, and they're actually listening a little bit more than they would if they were to continue to listen to me. But with that, what I've moved on to do then is to ask students to do something similar. Find a scene from their favorite film, from an advert. I did this at Christmas. You know, Christmas adverts, especially in the UK, there's almost a competition amongst shops on Christmas ads, and they've dubbed their own. Now, asking them to dub their own, put them into breakout rooms, have a look at the video, and then, you know, create the dialogue together, again, using collaborative software like maybe a shared Google Doc, or even typing just on Jamboard. Be careful if you are typing on Jamboard. It is very common for Jamboard to have some weird bugs in it, and text can, you know, magically disappear. So I would recommend using a Google Doc or something similar if you're using a shared document to type on. So scene dubbing is something you can get them to do as well, of course, with this with the screencast. The other thing is in breakout rooms. So many of my classes are exam preparation classes. I'm a Cambridge and Trinity examiner as well, so I'm trying to get students to practice the speaking side of things. And I thought to myself, well, how do I get them to see the slides or see the pictures and actually practice the complete speaking test while I'm not with them, because obviously I can't be in 4, 5, 6 different breakout rooms at the same time. So again, what I've done was compiled slides. This one's using Google Slides, and then I've recorded myself giving the instructions as though I were the examiner. And I basically, what I did is, in this part, this is a B2 first type speaking test. It's part 2 where they need to compare 2 photographs, and I'd give the instructions and then ask, stop and just sort of sit there in silence for 1 minute as the screencast software is recording, and then would say the typical Cambridge phrase of, okay, thank you, which is basically, okay, stop talking now. And that gives them the time. That tells them, so they're getting used to the timing as well. While they're doing this in their breakout rooms, I'm popping in and out of each breakout rooms to monitor, to listen, to take notes, the same as I would in a physical classroom as well, I guess. So again, nice and simple. It just...
Okay, now I'd like you to take 2 minutes to discuss and how we can help the environment by doing these things.
So very simple, give the instructions. And now in this is a typical part 3 speaking, where the students would speak for 2 minutes if they're in pairs before coming to a conclusion. And I sit there literally for 2 minutes to give them that time before I say, okay, thank you, and stop them. So again, this has been, for me, this has been a savior for many of my exam preparation classes, focusing on the speaking side of things as well. Yeah. And the other thing is that
now I'd like you to take 2 minutes to discuss.
You don't listen to me again. Is my instruction giving is not great, so this has helped me as well give the instructions. Angelos and Marisa also touched on flipping your classroom, and this is a screenshot of a video which I make 3 videos a week, short videos, 6-7 minute videos explaining a grammar or maybe a lexical point that's come up in the book, or it's going to come up in the book. Go through that grammar point with examples. I actually include a little bit of practice in that as well, but I show the answers in that. And then when the students come into class, it's we have a Q&A session very quickly, see if there are any doubts based on that, but then follow up very quickly with more extended practice. I'm not going to show you this video, I'll bore you to tears, but you get the idea of how I can prepare these slides, record myself. And why would I? Now, the good thing about screencasters is you can just record the audio, or you can record video and audio at the same time. And I think having myself visually present, it just adds a little bit more to the explanation, because I don't know, I think we're all aware of the importance of that visual aspect as well when teaching, instead of just listening. Okay, so how do I do it? Just for those of you who've never used this before, well, going to the website, I mean, it's really, really easy. I mean, if I can do it, literally anybody can. So go to the website, click on the record for free. The free versions, obviously it has its limitations, but it's I mean, it's very good, it's very useful. If you click on the launch free recorder, you'll get this option to download this, downloading a little program onto your computer. Then by clicking that, that'll end up on your desktop, which is very easy to access. Once you click on that, you'll get the option to resize the screen that you want to record. And you can choose, sorry, I do apologize, the instructions are appearing in Spanish in this, because this computer that I'm using at the moment is configured in Spanish. So you can use just record the screen, you can record the webcam as well that you're using, or both at the same time. So you can all choose the time limit, the size that you're recording, how, you know, the narration, so your microphone that you're using, and obviously whether you want to use the sound from the computer. And once you press record, it'll give you a 3, 2, 1, and off you go. Then once you stop that, you'll get this option, and you can save the video to your hard drive. You can load it to the cloud, the Screencast-O-Matic cloud, or load it onto YouTube. You can also edit it, or like I do very often, is watch it again and realize how terrible it was, and then redo it. Second chances are always the best, aren't they? So once you've done that, when you're happy with it, then you can publish it, making any edits to the description or whatever. And then you'll get the link. And voila, I think that's about it.
Wonderful, thank you very much, Paul. Now you see why we couldn't show Paul. You show his image. No, I'm kidding. I love Screencast-O-Matic. I actually have a paid version. It's not very expensive at all, and I very often use it as well to provide feedback on writing. I have these very long essays that are just gone text crazy. You know, when I just really writing, I just you just project the writing, and then you speak over it, and people love to see your face, actually, Paul. I agree with you. When you bring the bad news that this is a really bad paragraph. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Lovely. Victoria, would you like to talk to us a little bit about the tool that you prepared? Are you ready with your slides?
Yes. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Victoria. We can see you and hear you. I'm unfortunately, I don't know if I can give you video, but we can see your slides. Certainly, you're allowed to share your slides. Would you like?
Great. Right. Can you see it now?
Yes. Thank you.
Nice. So what I wanted to talk about is this tool called Word Wall. Well, it's how Angelos talked about it earlier. Sometimes we tend to just transfer our boring gap fill activities to virtual classrooms. And what we get is that, well, our students are bored and we waste time. What I see sometimes, even in my classrooms or my colleagues' classrooms, is that students waste time on asking each other what's number one, that would be A or B or C, and it's not really great use for our time. So we can use this word wall. We can't do without recycling the vocabulary, and we can't avoid doing these exercises altogether, but we can make it more fun and we can make it more convenient for us as teachers. So what this tool has is, well, again, nothing fancy, just regular activities which you can use with your students. What I like about it is that your students don't need to register. You just create an activity and send them the link. So again, what's convenient is that you can just, you don't need to ask students to take a photo. You don't need to share your handouts with activities. Students don't need to edit anything or jot down their answers on a piece of paper. So basically, there are 18 templates in a free version. You can choose 5 for free. And here, well, you can see there is this matching activities, anagrams, crosswords, quizzes. Some of the activities are open-ended, like random wheel. I wouldn't waste time on waste your free templates on these activities, because they're not, you can't track students' scores on them. But, well, if you want, you can use them. So you take the activities, you use the templates, choose the options that you like. So there's always timer, which you can use to see how long students did the activity, or you can set a limit for them, after which, when the clock hits 0, the activity will no longer be available. For some game-like activities, like shows, there's a number of lives, level of difficulty, and, well, other options. And you can, again, not to waste time on checking the answers, you can share them with your students. Also, you can choose the design, which may not seem very important, but well, it is, because students are more likely to participate actively if they like what they see. So it's not just black and white, like in the textbook. You can choose a classic theme for your adult learners, or maybe something more interesting like jungle for your younger students. And the same activity, so this is a matching activity, will look different. So you can make it more fun for a student, and it allows for, again, change in your classroom. Your students will be surprised every time you use something new. After you created the activity, it's really easy to assign it to a student. So you can preview the activity by hitting start, then share it. Wordwall allows to share it with the public. So there is the activity bank, and you can use activities and customize them that other teachers created. Or you can set the assignment for students. You just type the title, so you can find the results easily. And there is this registration option, which I and my colleagues really like, is that students don't need to register, but you can track their progress by asking them to just type their names. And there is this show answers option. You can use the leaderboard, and students will see how well they did compared with other students. Or you can use start again options. So you'll give your students the opportunity to try to attempt to do this task again and again. Then you hit start and you're ready to go. So there is this link you can share via Messenger, or when you teach online, you can just share it in a chat and you're ready to go. What my fellow teachers enjoy is tracking the progress. Well, it's not really progress because Wordwall is a tool, not the LMS, but you can track scores, right? So you see that 4 students attempted this activity, completed the activity. There's the average score. There is who the top score and who achieved it, the fastest, and there is the distribution. It's really detailed, right? So you can see the leaderboard, you can see result by questions, by students, and you can see for every question, you can see who answered what, and for every student, you can see, again, their answers, the number of correct answers or incorrect ones. Here's the tool. It's really easy to register. There is, well, logged in over there, right? You can see the templates, and you can just go and see this activity bank and what it looks like. So you can see what other teachers did and, well, use it. Basically, to create, again, how do I move it? Can't move it for some reason. Oh, right. So to create an activity, you go to My Activities. Here, create an activity. You choose the one you want to, for example, matching, and it's really easy. For example, I want to, I don't know, like fruit, and here I want the keyword like apple, and there is an image bank which I can use, so I don't need to search for something. Right. So I can add a lot of items for this. Then I hit, sorry, 3 items. Okay. Okay. Then I hit done, and, well, I'm ready to go.
Great, thank you very much, Victoria. That was a lovely presentation. People have been asking for your slides, and I have your slides, I think, but I don't have the live presentation, but you know, they'll probably be able to see it from the recording.
How do I stop screen share?
You can, I can screen share I can share my own screen. Oops. I lost.
Oh, right. Yeah, I did it. Sorry. Yeah, I can share the slides, and I've also made the video of this overview, which I sent to you, which I can also share.
All right. Yes, I will share the video. I thought I had lost my screen entirely. I apologize because I lost all of you from view. I will go back to my video.
Well, there's a question from Alison about reviewing vocabulary. Well, it's mostly used, but I work with teachers of different subjects like history, geography, and you can use WordWall for that as well. Like, for example, I don't know, matching definitions and different terms, or for quizzes, right? So you change your multiple choice for like, you know, this game, Who Wants to Become a Millionaire?
Yeah, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Really typical, right? So you can use it for that. And grammar games, it depends on, well, you can create anything.
Great, lovely, thank you very much. I don't know, I've lost Angelos. Is Angelos here? Well, okay.
Yes, I'm here.
I think I apologize because I did not introduce either Paul or Victoria properly. So Paul is a colleague. He lives in Spain. He is one of our tutors and colleagues who teaches on the ELT management course. And he's currently working with Angelos to become a CELT tutor. So you will be, hopefully he will be one of our CELT tutors soon. Victoria is one of my trainees on the Delta course. And she recently, or not so recently, Victoria, please correct me if I'm wrong. She has been working with teachers developing online materials and designing materials for online teachers in her country. So she's very, very, she's very, very knowledgeable about online design. I have not enabled your camera. I have no idea why I have not enabled your camera. Can I have no idea.
No problem.
I think I will make, can I make you host so you can do whatever you like? And you can,
sure.
Yeah, you can enable my camera if you like then. There you are, you're host now.
Oh, super.
Oh, there you are. Okay. So I think we have, thank you, Victoria. That was lovely. I will share the video that Victoria made for us in the Facebook group that I mentioned. And I also have a link here for my Jamboard. No, this is the, somebody asked for a link to my Jamboard presentation, which I can very quickly share if you're interested. I don't want to share it just with you, Angelos, but that's what happened. Can you just see if that link works? Yeah, I can share the link again. Ben, are you there? Ben Meredith, is he here?
Hi there. Can you hear me okay?
Angelos has hosting rights now, so I don't know what to do to give you video.
I think I can just share my screen. It should be okay, right?
Can I just say a couple of words about you? Ben is also a Delta trainee of ours, and he's been working with developing online materials. And what he wants to share is a few ideas of an online platform he's currently developing. And I think maybe even if you can't, he suggested that he could give you free licenses. Ben, can you say something?
Yeah, that's right. We have profiles, but at the moment it's very much in a beta kind of situation. So if anyone's interested in access, I'll put my email into the chat after I finish.
That would be lovely. Yes, please share your email so people can write to you.
Okay.
And try out your platform. So I'm going to give you 5 to 7 minutes max because I want to have Joe Dale as well do his present something that he's here since he's here.
Okay.
So, you're on.
Okay, so I'll try to be as brief as possible with what's quite a sprawling system, really. In one respect, it's quite quick and dirty, and it's designed to be so. So the problems we found with using kind of other LMSs, and this is an LMS, whether they were far too kind of sprawling in scope. So I'm going to take you through the board that we have today, and you can see it's super simple, pared back. Obviously, you can kind of put in text like so. If you need to format it, it's relatively easy. We introduced various things. So, for example, if you want to have a gap fill or something like that, then you can blank out words relatively easily. On the fly even, and also you can kind of look for examples relatively easily, so you can pull in, if you want, images for students relatively quickly. Again, on the fly, it's kind of designed to be, so you can pop up things. You can obviously make things into backgrounds and stuff like that if you want to. And things like that. So yeah, moving things. You can write obviously in tiles very quickly and correct, and then move things around relatively quickly, which we found to be quite useful. There's a recording tool as well. So if you want to record your voice, you simply do so, and there you have a recording. Obviously, like everything can be downloaded as a PDF for students after the lesson, and when they do that, they can kind of they can hit the recordings, and it will take them to a page where that's open, or any supplementary links that you pop in there as well. We have like a YouTube embed as well, which is super quick. So if I want to kind of play a YouTube, even Sky News Live, let's see, then I would be able to just drop this into the board like so, and it embeds really, really quickly. With vocabulary, we did it like this. So for example, if you have text on a page and you want to kind of explore that word and record that word for the student, you can highlight it. We have a color class system as well, so you can define things by color. Sometimes helps students to notice certain elements. And then we can also open up a vocab slide as well. So for example, it automatically takes the text which contains the target word, if you like, and puts it here. There's a place for the clue. And then we can kind of open up Google Images and pull in images really, really quickly. When we have all three, we have the example and the image and the clue, we can blank things out. And obviously, when you save that, it goes to the student's side. So automatically, they receive all of the information and the examples, and they're prompted to write their own examples. I'll show you a little bit more of that in a couple of seconds. For accessing other people's materials, it was really interesting to hear about the issues with a kind of a central repository. So what we have is, if you're teaching, then you can pull in, obviously you have your own folder. So these are all my boards, and I can skip through and I can just take elements. So I can add that one, add that one, add that one, delete that one, and very, very quickly adapt things. But also I can go to other teachers. So I can search by all teachers. Let's say I'm looking for, okay, well, this is quite a nice one I saw on second conditional, which came up. So I can have a look through again and choose the stuff which I like and adapt it very freely without fear of overwriting the teacher's work. So yeah, I'll take maybe a couple of slides from here, bit of practice, and then come out, and it's all there on the board and ready to go. Obviously, you can move it around and adapt. If you want to delete things, you just hurl them into the right-hand gutter, for example. We have practices as well, practice banks. So, you can go here and yeah, let's just preview this. Yeah, all good. and then assigned to the students. Again, you get a link here on a page. So when you download the board as a PDF, or if the student has access from their side, then they can go there and access their task very quickly. When students complete tasks or write examples for the words that you give them, they come back to the teacher, which we found really useful. So there's a really good moderation cycle. All the words appear here and all of the marking appears here. So you can kind of sign off or intervene where necessary. Yeah, we're 5 minutes 40 seconds. So I'll show you the student side very, very quickly. So as a student, obviously you come here and you can see the examples, or you're prompted to add examples of recent words. You can do your exercises, or you can do flashcards with words you've written examples for, which have been approved by the teacher. You can check your vocabulary by lesson and play flashcards as well for that, with the images that you selected and the examples that you made and created with the teacher in the lesson. You can review all of your lessons as well here. So having a look at your board. I think that, yeah, 6 minutes 20.
That was almost like
that's pretty much about it.
Yeah,
that was a whirlwind.
It was really a whirlwind. Can you put your email in the text chat, please?
Yeah, I will. And as I said, you know, it's the great thing about this is it's kind of test-led development. So what that's enabled us to do is to really look at how teachers are using these things, this tool, and then to kind of introduce new features based on that, rather than, you know, any arbitrary decisions that we make.
Great, thank you very much. It's really very interesting, and I think if you would like to help in the development and also learn a lot of things about working with online tools, this is interesting. I just wanted to ask you, I will ask Joe Dale to be our final contributor, but before we do that, let me share my screen briefly, because I promised I was going to show you Padlet, and I want to show you Padlet, which is a great tool, and I wanted to show you, well, Padlet is something where you can upload stuff. This is my Padlet, my account, and I have about 300 Padlets that I've made, and each Padlet is different. I mean, I don't know how many I have, but you can typically. You can put, for example, this is the shelf configuration. For example, this is my pronunciation resources Padlet, where vertically I put different things, pronunciation games, blog posts and slides, blah, blah, blah. Or you can really say, okay, you can just throw things in any which way. This doesn't have very much, but you can, let's look at approaches and methods. This is a very messy Padlet here. But the recent tool that I want to show you, it's called my Phenomenal Padlet, because I haven't mentioned, named it yet, is one where the learners can just paste images. They can record something like I did. For example, this. Hello, everyone. This is a recording to show that you can add a recorded message on Padlet. So if you want to give them a homework that's voice with voice, they can record, or you can ask them while they are in breakout rooms, in breakout room mode, you can ask them to go on your Padlet and record their conversation. And you can keep it to review later, or you can ask them to review each other's conversations later. For listening and speaking practice, or for giving feedback to each other. They can draw, like this little drawing. They can put themselves on their map, or they can just take a picture of themselves or a screenshot and put in anything. So I'm going to give you the link to my Phenomenal Padlet, and I want you to go after the session. I'm going to rename it into something more interesting. And I want you to go and record some voice feedback about what you liked about our session and what you didn't like about our session, so how we could improve it. So give us some feedback on this Padlet, please. Can you find the link? I don't know. Let me just check. Somebody asked me if we can do video. I'm just going to type, add something, and it gives me a camera, and I will allow. So I think it's just photo booth, and I can take a picture. There I am. I'm not going to save it, but let's see what else we can do. We can do audio recorder. We can do camera. We can do video recorder. Yeah. All right. Yes. Hello. I'm going to do video. And this is another great feature of Padlet. So there you are. I'm going to save that so you can see it. So I'm going to stop sharing. I hope you will go to that Padlet and leave your comments. I hope you don't say anything nasty, because I cannot bear it if you say anything unnecessarily mean, but I will listen. And I'm going to ask Joe Dale to thank you to come up and share his screen. Joe, we managed to have you on video. I think Angelos is better at this than me. So Joe Dale is a colleague, I hope part of my PLN, my personal learning network, from a very long time ago. I'm honored you're here. And he is ahead of many teacher communities, particularly the Twitterati. And he works a lot with teachers of other modern languages and English as well. And here are his details. And he was going to talk to us about oracy skills with QWIQR, which I'm very, very, very interested about, because I don't know very much about it. Joe.
Okay, thank you ever so much for this opportunity. Yeah, I think I'm just going to crack on because we haven't got lots of time. Yeah, so QWIQR is pronounced quicker conversations, and I'm very excited about this, and I'm just going to jump in and show you how it works for speaking and listening skills. So this is the video tutorial which I have here, but I'm actually going to do this live, but I'm going to share the whole presentation with you as well, so you can watch the whole thing back, but you can watch this video tutorial as well. But we're actually going to do this live, so I'll be asking for some audience participation, if that's okay. So Quicker as a website was developed by a physics teacher in the southwest of England a couple of years ago now. There's two main ways of using it. You can use it for individual feedback, but you can also use it for conversation. So I'm going to show you the conversation option today. So to do that, you click on the create instant feedback like this, and you click on the let me just put that there. You click on the purple circle here with the two speech bubbles in it. So you click on that like that. You can put a title and a tag in here if you want to, as a way of organizing your recordings, but I'm just going to go for it right now. So I'm going to record the first part of my audio, and you can use this in a variety of ways, but I think particularly for, say, conversation practice or dialogue practice, I think it's really nice. So here we go. Blah, 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 blah. This is the first line of my conversation, or it could be me introducing a learning objective, or maybe giving a presentation as an audio presentation, etc., etc., etc. Then I click stop. Okay, it uploads onto the servers in the UK. If you're using the EU version of the site, which is eu.quicker.education, then it will upload onto EU servers. You can re-record, you can play back the audio, you can delete the audio, you can also upload upload other audio if you prefer to replace it with the audio that's there. If you wanted to use, say, Audacity to record and edit the recording, first of all, you could do that. You can add in a photo as well as part of your the thread that you share with everybody. You can also add in text and a web link as well, all of which are free. The only thing that you'd have to pay for would be the video option, but I would recommend using Flipgrid and other such tools for that instead. So just focusing on the audio for now. So as you can see here, it says choose allowed response types. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all these other ones, just have the microphone one selected. That means that when I share the link with you in a moment, you'll all just see the microphone icon. You won't see the other things which could be distracting for your students. and you don't need an account to record the audio. You just need to have an account to set up the the conversation and to record your audio as the teacher, but the students do not need to have an account to do that. The other thing I love about this is here, as you can see, you can moderate the conversation, which a bit like Flipgrid, before you choose whether you want to approve or delete the audio that people submit, then you get to see it first of all, which is just brilliant. So then all you do is you just click start your quick conversation like this, and away we go. Okay, so this is the audio here. Now, to make it nice and easy for me to get this onto my iPad, all I'm going to do is click here, and I've got a QR code extension, which means all I need to do now is just launch my iPad. As you can see right now, I'm going to scan the QR code, and now on my screen I have the as you can see, I've got the different buttons. The reason I've got the microphone button and the ABC and the padlock, etc., is because I'm logged in on my iPad account, but it would work if I wasn't logged in and I would just see the microphone. Here we go. So I'm going to tap the microphone and record my voice. Blah, 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 blah. This is line 2 of my conversation, or it could be me giving some audio feedback to a student's work, or I could be giving the link into a group of students in a breakout room, and they could be summarizing their conversation if they wanted to, a little bit like Marisa was showing us how she could do that in Padlet. Right, here we go. Right, so I've just done that. It's uploading now onto the servers, and in a second it will appear on the screen. But I'm also going to copy the link. There we are. There it is. There's my second response. You see how easy it is. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to post this link into the chat. And what I would love you to do is for you to record some audio of, say, 5 or 10 seconds, maybe describing the top tip that you've learned in today's webinar, and share it with everybody here right now. So I'm not going to say anything while you're doing that. So otherwise my voice will appear on the screen. Here we go. Let's just have a quick listen to this.
This is a great tool. How is it different to, say, Voicethread?
Okay, so just to prove that one, great question. How is it different to Voicethread? So it's similar to Voicethread, but Voicethread, if you want to make it sort of like a private Voicethread, you have to pay. That's my understanding. So this is completely free. If you want to keep your audio for longer than, say, 3 months, then you'd have to pay, which is about like €2 a month, which is hardly anything at all. But if you want to keep it forever for free, all you have to do is right-click the player and click Save Audio As, and then you can just download the audio, and you've got it, and you can then store it in, say, Google Drive or what have you. Let's have a listen to the next one.
Vox up a little bit, which I'm
It really is an interesting tool. Nice, thank you.
You're welcome. So as you can see here, I've got approve and delete. So if I felt that was inappropriate, I could obviously delete it, but I can also click approve. That means that only I get to see it as the teacher. Nobody else sees it unless I approve it. Okay.
This looks like Vox up a little bit, which I'm missing a lot because it used to be free and easy to use, and you could have students talk out one after the other.
Yeah, that's why I miss VoxPop. I don't think VoxPop's been around for ages now. I can see in the chat someone's asked me about the live captions. That's actually something in Chrome. Just to show you how that works. If I click on the 3 dots here and click Settings and click Advanced and Accessibility, you can see it here. It says Live Caption. So you have to turn this on by default. You have to have the latest version of Chrome, obviously, and it only works in English at the moment. But knowing Google, I'm sure they'll update it so it works in other languages soon. So that's just part of Chrome, nothing to do with Quicker. So there we are. That's it. That's how it works. I love it. And the other thing that you can do as well at the bottom is here, the padlock. You click on the padlock and you lock the conversation. That means nobody else can then reply, can then send audio to that link, and it's locked. So that's fine. Right, let me just show you a couple of other examples if it's okay. So here are some language teachers who have been using this. This is in a sort of French, Spanish, German context, but it's totally replicable for English. So Karen Longman, who works at the International School of Monaco, she's using it in conjunction with her iPads and for speaking ideas. So as you can see, she's saying, my students practice their listening, grammar, and thinking skills all in one go using Quicker. Invocad MFL, which is a school up in near Glasgow, As you can see here, Sarah Bell, who's the person who runs this account, is using it for live marking, sending a unique link to each pupil. So what she's doing in that situation, she's recording one piece of audio per child. So instead of using the quicker conversations option, she's using the individual audio, which I haven't shown you today. But basically what you do is you download a PDF with lots of QR codes on it. You then scan the individual QR codes, record your audio, and assign that audio to that individual QR code. So that's how that works. Turnbull Modern Languages here are using quicker feedback for QR code dictation and translation races. Claire Wilson here is using it for speaking homeworks. Likewise, Miss Burke is also using it for speaking homeworks. And Vincent Everett here is using it for voice-to-voice dictation, whereby he's saying, oops, sorry about that, is saying that he's using it for the students to listen, repeat back a bit longer each time until they can do the whole text or summarize it or answer a question. Simple, spontaneous responses, lots of presentation, just like in the classroom. And Vincent also came up with this idea as part of a set of webinars which I've been organizing called TILT, which is TILT, which stands for Technology and Language Teaching. And you can find my the recordings of all these webinars on my YouTube channel, which is Joe Dale 100. I'm just going to play this example here. So Vincent came up with this idea of doing a street view mystery. He focused on a town in France called Vesoul. And what he did was he created different clues based around the different places in that town. And he also used quicker feedback to ask different people in the languages community to record their audio as if they were playing the role of an old man or an old woman or a young girl, etc. So I'll just give you a flavor of it right now. Here we go.
Un homme assez vieux qui porte un pantalon gris, une chemise bleue, il a les cheveux gris. And then you have this conversation with him. And there he is. You can click here to bring up the sound, which I've got here. Either that or scan on your phone this QR code will bring up the audio. So if you click here, you'll hear me basically, or someone else, other contributors saying this. The questions underneath are very much there to help you understand. So what is his name? Je suis Henri. There you are. What is behind you? Regardez derrière vous, il y a un pot de fleurs énorme. Okay, so on the one on YouTube, I didn't spoil it for you. I didn't turn around and see the big pot of flowers. But when you do this in class, I know from the previous Street View Mysteries, there's a gasp out loud moment. Sometimes pupils even scream when you turn around and you suddenly see something like an enormous pot of flowers.
Okay, so as you can see, what Vincent has done there is he's got he's read out the clue as for the text there, but he's also got the QR codes. You can listen to the audio at the same time if you would like to. So that's really, really lovely. I'm just wrap up very quickly now. Another idea is to have a digital praise postcard. I'll just show you this one live. If that's okay, you can use Quicker or Vocaroo for this. I'll just show you how this works. As you can see here, it says name of student. You just put the name of the student in here. And the idea is the following. I'm just going to use Vocaroo very quickly because it'll take no time at all to do this. So vocaroo.com. This is the example of a digital praise postcard whereby I'm giving praise to an individual student for a piece of work that they've done. Right, I click save and share, QR code, save QR code, save, go back to my praise postcard, drag and drop the PNG file over the top like that. And then obviously I could tidy that up and make it a bit nicer. File, download, and I can then download this as a PDF or a PNG file, for example, and share it with my students via Moodle or Google Classroom, whatever it is I want to use. So the idea is you're giving the students praise using your voice on a piece of work they've done.
Or it could be a way you can make badges in your online community, because badges are not easy to make, but you can make voice badges in recognition of something.
Yeah, good idea.
Participation or whatever. Thank you very much. It's lovely.
That's okay. And we're just finishing off now. That's the presentation. And again, thank you to Marisa for this opportunity. So I just put that in the chat for you as well. And my contact details are on the screen there. If you have liked this and you'd like to contact me and ask me to do, so more like a webinar for you, just let me know. I can send you example sessions and all the rest of it. So this is is.gd/CELT TDC. And there we are. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. I'll stop sharing now.
Great, thank you very much, Joe. We come to the end of this. Thank you very much for your patience, all 40 of you. Usually we end up with 5, but today's session has proved very interesting with lots of different people contributing great ideas. Thank you all for staying. Some of you, are we aware of a curated Padlet or similar? Yes, I am. I think we've shared different Padlets with different people. Are you asking for a link? I can't remember if I have one, but I've done curated tools at different times. What I would like to ask you to do, some of you have asked for a certificate of attendance, and I'm going to share a link with you for you to please, if you want a certificate, please complete this form, because it's very difficult to sit and make certificates for everyone. These days, online work really chews up your time. And I'm trying to find a way to generate self-signed certificates. And I think I can do it through Google Classroom. I'm just learning how to do this. So when I made my certificate, I will invite you to download your certificate from Google Classroom, which I think is a great learning tool for everyone. Because in Google Classroom, you know, if you give your learners a quiz or something, or a challenge, then you can give them a certificate of achievement. Certify them Chrome extension. Yeah, oh, all right. That's what I'm looking for. I was just watching a video before the session, Joe, and I didn't finish learning it. So, well, put in your name in the form, and we'll invite you. And please join our online community on Facebook. Would you like the link to our Facebook page where we share things? Many of you are already members there, and I recognize many names. I don't know if I have a tool. I'm going to stop the recording now because it's going to become huge.